Hey, so as I promised, in this couple of videos, and I'm going to break this into two, um, but they're very highly related because I think if you follow the first one, you're probably going to see some problems, although it will work. Um, anyway, in these two videos, I'd like to kind of fully kind of jump into some of the mechanics that I think are going to be interesting for a player and are going to attract them to this. And so let's pull up Paint here, and just to remind you of what I am thinking about. So in this game, rather than just have this player that's running around and grabbing stuff and seeing their score go up every single time, and they're jumping and grabbing stuff, blah blah blah. That's that's a simple platformer type of model. And what I'd like to do is add an element of strategy to it. And so my idea, but I'm not sure if it's good or not, or even I kind of think I know how to implement it, is that as the player runs around, they're going to, let's say this is a top-down view, and they have a few of these pickups, these tacos here. And let's say there's some there and some there, some there, and then maybe, there's obstacles, right? So this might be a little alleyway here. Maybe this one is sitting on a roof somewhere, and there's a little jump puzzle. Some people hate these. We have to get up to this one. Right, and so they're placed in different places, and maybe this one is kind of, nearby. Very scary enemy, and he's close by to this. So as the player starts, they have, a speed of 100, let's just say. It's actually probably going to be more like 600 per our character. So they have this speed. And then as they, eat one of these or pick up one of these, then the speed is reduced, right? And it's reduced in some way. Like, my thought is I think it should be reduced proportional, so that, depending on how many of these tacos there are, the speed should get reduced proportionally, divided by the number of tacos that are left. So they eat this one. And then there's these three here, right? So I'm thinking the player could say, oh yeah, this is so great, I'm going to eat this one, but that would also reduce the speed, right? And then if you ate this one, that would reduce the speed even more, and so on and so forth. So a bad strategy, in fact, a very bad strategy, and maybe even one that doesn't allow you to complete the level, would be to say, oh, I'm going to grab these four that are right here, and then perhaps I'm even adding this other idea of them gaining mass, right? So if the player eats all four of these, maybe they're just way too big and they can't fit into here to get this one. Or they're too slow, right? And then that ends up being bad for them, because then this guy can come and get them if they try to take that, or they just can't jump up here. And so in our case, right, the player may say, well, let's skip these three and let's go directly to this one here. So they may say, hey, I'm going to grab this one, and then when I get that, that's all good. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go up here, grab this one, and then maybe they can jump across here and jump across there, grab that one, and then slowly make their way back, being chased by this guy, but still make it and go 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So that's my thinking. At least I think that'll be kind of fun, but I have really zero clue, and I kind of don't have a clue about how we can make it. But anyway, let's try. So here we are. I added a couple of more spinny tacos here, just to make sure and show off. You can see in the upper left here, it says my score, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So the first thing I'm interested in is just the basic mechanic of reducing my speed. And I think that'll be the first video that we do here, is, how can I go about doing that? And, how might I do those things? So go ahead and let's open our player character here. And if you recall, when I was introducing the character and some of the benefits, I mentioned in the upper left here that you have this movement component that's inherited. And if we select that, there's lots and lots of different types of character movement associated types of variables here, like jump, velocity, deceleration, a lot of stuff. There's gravity, right, which we might or might not use. And so let's scroll around here and see if there's something that we think might be useful. And if we think it's useful, we're going to try to test it immediately. So character movement, land movement. Oh, I have this. So you see how it had my advanced options showing. You don't need that. Movement walking, max walk speed, maximum ground speed when walking, also turn lateral speed when falling. I like this. And it's set to 600. So let's go ahead and play. And I guess that's a 600 walk speed, right? Let's move this to, I don't know, just something drastic, like 100. And compile and go ahead and play. Oh yeah, I'm moving a lot slower. So I think this is something we can play around with. It definitely has potential. And if it doesn't, we can always change to something else. So let's go ahead and change that back. You can also click this little yellow button here. It says reset to default. So that'll reset it to 600, which is what we want, and compile it. Okay, so how to set this kind of programmatically or visually in Blueprints, I'll just tell you. If you take this character movement component and we drag it out, we can get a reference to it here, and then we can do something. And so if I'm hanging out in this when we collide with, oh, there's an extra. There we go. When we collide with food, increase our score, destroy the food, and slow down the player. That's what I think we want. We want something that's going to at least give me a feel for that relatively quickly. So we destroy the food, and then we want to do something to the player. So if we take this character movement, what was it called? Let's see, max walking speed, right? And so since we have a reference to this component, if we drag off it, we just type the word max walking. We get all of those variables that we can set. In our case, we want to set max walking speed, and then we're going to set it to, for now, let's just do 100. And so the first thing that we eat, the first actor that we collide with here that has that food tag, the second we do that, it should change our walk speed to 100. So if we play this, and let's pick this one here, and we immediately slow down. But any subsequent ones, we're just slow, right? And that's not what we want. But it's getting in the right direction. And just FYI, you're going to see quite rapidly how something that seems kind of simple can actually get you into a pretty big, deep, dark hole of trying to figure out the best way to do something. And just FYI, I'm not even sure, and I keep stressing that, I'm not even sure this is a good mechanic. And the thing that's going to tell me if it's a good mechanic is actually, me testing, but then really, and more importantly, it's me handing it to some friends to give this a try and, do a little bit of level design. So I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, but we're going to end up spending a little bit. So that's not exactly what we want to do. I think for each actor that we destroy, we need to set a variable here. So we want to store this we want to store a walking speed, and then we're going to reduce that. So for this variable, let's just call it current walk speed. And instead of being a Boolean, we want that to be a float. And that's very good. And ignore that error there. And what should we do? let's actually go ahead and when we begin play, we're gonna store that. Right, so max walk speed. We're gonna get that max walk speed, and then we're gonna take our current walk speed and set it. Right, so what this does is, we'll comment it, set our current walk speed when we begin the game. Okay, so this will set our current walk speed when we begin the game, so we know we have that. And then what we can do to play around, at least, is we can get this current walk speed after we've run into one of these. We can get the current walk speed, and then we can reduce it. So if we want, we can just actually drag off of this one and click the negative key, and then we'll take a float. So we'll say the current walk speed in minus, I don't know, 100? Sure, that'll make us, we'll basically stop. And then what we want to do finally is then set that. And every time we run into something, the new value, this says, is the new value will be the current value minus 100. And then we need to, of course, this doesn't do anything for us unless we actually set it on the character movement component. So just remember to do that. So it's called max walking, set max walk speed. And so we want to set the max walk speed on our character. Okay, so rapidly to tell you what this is doing here, when we start the game, this event begin play action fires, and then we're setting a variable that we set called current walk speed, and that's equal to whatever our character movement component. In this case, it's something that's 600, right? Max walk speed is there, so this is equal to 600. And then once we run into or overlap one of those food actors, it's going to take that value, which is 600, it's going to reduce it by 100, and it's going to set that as our new current walk speed. And then lastly, it's going to go ahead and call that character movement component and set its max walk speed to what that value is. And so if we compile, if we play this, what we expect to happen is every single time we eat one of these, we're going to slow down until we're finally at 0. And when we are at 0, that's, we should no longer be able to walk. So if I play this, I'll go ahead and eat that, and I'm a little bit slower, eat that, slower, eat that, maybe go get that one, and definitely very slow. And then grab this one, and I can't move. I mean, I can turn, but I'm disabled. Okay, very cool. This kind of the end of this video. As far as you're concerned, you're probably like, wow, this is so great. What's kind of cool about this is, and in the second video, I'm going to take this pretty far because I have this idea about, the being able to have each taco have more calories, and then, that's going to be in proportion to the speed, and there's a function that I want to build in depending on, the speed, and make sure that any amount of tacos that one places, it's still possible to calculate within blueprints, what the reduced walking speed for the character should be. And all this was because I had some other idea about where I wanted to make user-generated maps, and you could place tacos wherever you wanted and challenge your friends and yada yada. That said, I actually think I must tell you that this is it's possible now with the framework that we have here. Even though we've got this magic number sitting out there on our character, it's not outside of the realm of possibility for us to do a little bit of real life playtesting here, and build a little bit of a level and tell a particular person that your goal is in the fastest time possible, and I'm going to put you on a stopwatch, that your goal is to go ahead and eat as many of these as possible in the most efficient way. And so I almost feel like we can stop here, and then in the second video I'll go ahead and take this a little bit further. But let's see here. Just gonna run around and show you one thing. I added a couple extra tacos here, but now it's actually impossible for me to get them all. Right? I can't move anymore, and there's 2 more tacos. So that's a broken game. And so we kind of want to avoid those situations. So if you're designing the game and you're like, well, I know there's only going to be this many of them, and I'm going to reduce my walk speed by, some amount, the amount of however many of them there are divided by, the walk speed, then that's okay. But I think we want to fix that, and I think we have enough tools that we can. Okay, see you next time. Thanks.